Okay, hi, welcome to Friends in Faith. This series that we're doing has to do with Holy Week. You know, when it comes to Holy Week, people are familiar with Palm Sunday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday. But what about the other days? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What was Jesus doing? Where was he? And so this week we're going to go through Holy Week day by day. Palm Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Is there anything about Holy Thursday you should know that you're not familiar with? Good Friday. And then finally, Holy Saturday. What happened on Holy Saturday? Easter, we know. He rose from the dead. Well, what about Saturday? So that's what this series is about, day by day through Holy Week. However, before I get into day one, Palm Sunday, I have a commercial for you first. The measure of success of all evangelization things we do for Friends in Faith, Newman Center, Walking with Purpose, and all the various evangelization things we're doing in the parish, it's not just what people get out of it. That's only the first step. The second step is, what are you doing for others? Our faith has to take us from what we're learning and believing into action. What we do for other people. The two commandments, love God, easy, but what do we do for other people? Love your neighbor. And that's something you do, not just something you pat yourself on the back for. I feel like I love my neighbor. So with that in mind, I am working with Kathy Regalado. You don't know Kathy, but we have worked together with MustardSeed Communities since the year 1999. In fact, for a while, she was an employee of MustardSeed and then became the outreach director for her parish, St. Kateri, and was a youth minister for me when I was in Culver City at St. Augustine. We worked together a lot, and she's the mother of 4 of my godchildren. Anyway, we have been on multiple mission trips together, and she's generally the leader of them, and we're trying to plan one for June 11th. Right now we're on the MustardSeed calendar. What is MustardSeed Communities? They have places, I call them apostolates, in different countries. The heart of it's in Jamaica, but also Nicaragua that we can't go to right now because of the government. Malawi, Zimbabwe. Most of the mission trips right now go to Jamaica, where they have many different sites. And the charism of MustardSeed Community, there are a lot of things expanded, but the first and primary thing is to take care of children with disabilities who have no family. And every kind of disability you can imagine, from the best ones, which would be Down syndrome, to the ones who are absolutely have no mobility, in wheelchairs, they can't control arms or legs, they can't speak, but they're still taken care of from the time they arrive at MustardSeed until their natural death. And if that happens at 80 years old, well, then they stay there for 80 years old. No one turns their back on them at any time. And mission trips go to help that. And this one we're planning on June 11th is to Jamaica. And ideally we picked that day because it was open to stay to one of the homes called Sophie's Place. Sophie was a disabled girl from England. Parents brought her to see MustardSeed, and then when they saw the work that was being done, they stayed until she died. And they named one of the homes after her. And that is we generally try to stay there. If you want to know more about MustardSeed, go to www.mustardseed.com. And you can see everything you need to know about them. And then I'd invite you on YouTube to look at some of the reels from MustardSeed, where you can see, I say children, there are children and adults, but all of them need help. The second part of what they do is they have home for children born with AIDS, because the parents were HIV positive, and they take them in and provide them with medication for the rest of their lives. Even when they educate out and can get jobs, they still come to MustardSeed to get medication, and it's expensive. So the mission trips help cover a lot of that. Essentially the cost is a little bit steep, $1,200 to MustardSeed. The trips are 1 week, 7 days. or 8 days. We leave on, let's say, a Sunday and arrive on back home on Sunday, or leave on Saturday, arrive back on Saturday, and get a day off in there. Day off to see some of the scenic parts of Jamaica. The rest of the time is work projects and working with kids, feeding them, especially the ones who can only be hand-fed. They need to be fed twice a day, porridge, whatever else they have, because they may not even have control of their chewing, so a lot of it is porridge. But feeding them, holding them, and so forth. So anyway, that is on June 11th. Again, the cost $1,200 donation of mustard seed, which pays for medication, food, pays their caregivers, all of those things, and then airfare. So that's what it's taken. But we need to know, because we're only 3 months away, so we need to know fairly quickly if anybody's interested. We can take somewhere between 20 and 25 people. Now, a few years ago, I tried to do this here and got absolutely zero interest, and it was heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. So I'm hoping this time something will come up, because we can't just take care of ourselves. We have to take care of others. So if you're interested in this with the next week or two, please let me know, because the longer you wait, the more the airline tickets go up. To Holy Week, first day, Palm Sunday. Now, what you know about Palm Sundays, we have the palms because Jesus entered into Jerusalem. They laid palm cloaks and palm leaves down on the ground and cheered him and everything else. And the question is, why? Why palm leaves? Why cloaks? Why all the cheering? I have to go back into the past to understand it. We know we've heard over and over and over that the Jews were waiting for a Savior. But what kind of Savior were they waiting for? If you look at their past, the heroes of the past, Moses, Joshua, Gideon, David, Moses who delivered them from Egypt, took them through the desert for 40 years. Joshua, who took them across the Jordan River into the Promised Land and eliminated enemies opposing them when the walls of Jericho fell down. Gideon, who defeated an army of 135,000 men of Midianites with only 300 soldiers. David, who conquered the giant Goliath when he was only a boy of 12 or 13. And what did all those have in common? There are more, but what did all those have in common? Because they conquered their enemies through the power of God. They listened and knew God was with them. And they followed his directions, his will, they were told to do, and they were victorious. Later on, after Solomon died, then the kingdom split into two because of rivalry among his sons, who's going to be the king, and blah, blah, blah. And they started depending on politics and alliances with other countries, and it led to their doom. The one people in power trying to get wealthier, the poor getting poorer, idolatry creeping into their religion, forgetting what God had done for them in the past, and it led to their demise, a disaster. But when they look back in Jerusalem, which was only a remnant of who they had been, Jerusalem at the time of Jesus, and when they talked about a Savior, what they really wanted to know, whoever arose, that God was with them, because that was what their heroes of the past had. The power of God helping them because they were obedient to him. And so now when we come to Jesus, and what do they hear? He's raising people from the dead. He's healing people with leprosy. Who can cure leprosy except God alone? Giving sight back to those who are blind. Giving hearing to those who were deaf. Speaking to those who were mute. Raising Lazarus from the dead. And on and on and on. And if you're hearing about all of this, and you're a regular person in Galilee or in Judea, and what do you think? This one, who else can do this but God? This one, God is with him. And so when it comes to that final week, when he entered in Jerusalem, leading up to his crucifixion, and people heard that he was coming, he'd been up in Galilee, and he's coming, he's arriving. And there were tens of thousands, because of Passover, who would come to Jerusalem every year to celebrate Passover as was required, not just in the city, but in the Kidron Valley below Jerusalem, camping out and preparing for Passover. And they heard he was here. Then the excitement came. We need to see him. We need to celebrate him. We need to welcome him, because they knew the prophecy of Zechariah 500 years earlier. Your king will come riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey. And when Jesus came riding, well, first, he was staying in Bethany during that week with Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, almost certainly, about 2 miles from Jerusalem. So each day that he traveled from their home to Jerusalem, they had to go over the Mount of Olives, down the other side, across the small Kidron Valley, and then enter in Jerusalem. So all of these people hear that he's coming. And when they see him riding on the colt, they say, prophecy of Zechariah. This is our Savior. God is with him. What we heard is true. And they celebrated. Now, they weren't the only ones seeing him, though. Unfortunately, they also had the Pharisees seeing him, who hated him. And what did they accuse him? What they accused him of actually was true. He claims to be God. It was truth, but they couldn't see it. They refused to believe it. They refused to believe their eyes. One, and depending on which gospel you read, either this week during Holy Week or he'd done it earlier, he had interrupted the flow of money to the wealthiest, to the Pharisees, who had the concessions and all of the trading going on inside the temple for animals and birds and money changing and all of that, and they were getting wealthy off that. And he was interfering with that. He was interfering with the nice, cozy relationship they had with the Romans. So the poor people got taxed. But they had this agreement with the Romans so they could get wealthier and wealthier. I mean, there was a lot of corruption, just like you see in politics today. Lots and lots of corruption there. And Jesus accused them to their face. You are hypocrites. You're like graves. You look beautiful on the outside, but dead men's bones on the inside. You have the Father's words on your lips, but you don't have it in your heart. You love yourselves, not people. And they hated him. And eventually they were the ones who led the crucifixion. And so on Palm Sunday then, we celebrate this entrance into Jerusalem. The cheering when common people understood he's fulfilling the prophecy. This is our King. This is our Savior. God is with him. Now I've been instructed to say, what am I supposed to say like this?
Please leave a like. Comment below.
Please leave a like and a comment below. But discuss this, because many other things happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even into Holy Thursday and then Good Friday that you're familiar with. But that's what we wanted you to come out with at the end of this series, a sense of what that week was like. Okay. Good luck in your discussions. Thank you.